Hello, and welcome to training for the proper procedures and processes for submitting and completing a claim. So here's a brief overview of what a claim is and what it entails. So a claim in general is anytime a customer reports any sort of damage to their vehicle or theft within their vehicle while it is in our care. So if a customer reports that there was a scratch or something is missing, that's when a claim needs to be completed in order to process that proper information to determine whether or not that we as a company or an employee did the damage or whether or not we are not at fault for that. So this process is really important because it allows us to determine whether or not we actually submitted or completed damage and whether or not the employee or somebody else is at fault. So these are the things that we use to process claims. We use an iPad. If you are not familiar with an iPad, you will get familiar with one. They are not that hard to use. We also use an app, and within iPads, there are different apps that perform different functions. The one we use is called FastField, and it is a form creator. It allows you to fill out multiple pieces of information and pictures and submit it all from within the iPad, which makes it very convenient. So when you're completing a claim, you really don't have to do much else other than kind of, use the iPad in the very beginning. And then we also use a file management system called Google Drive. After you are done using the iPad, you kind of have to add information or details to the claim, but we'll get into that a little later. So when processing a claim, there is certain information that needs to be collected. That is the customer information, like their name, their address, things like that. The vehicle information, the type of damage that was done or the type of theft that was done, physically describing what happened. Also taking pictures of the damage or any relevant photos that revolve around the claim, whether it be another car that was damaged with it or a pole that was hit, as well as employee statements. Everyone that was involved in the incident needs to give a statement. They need to tell a very detailed description as to what happened. It not only helps get a bigger picture as to the claim itself, but it also kind of reduces any liability for the employee or the company if they are able to state what exactly happened within that time frame. And then we're going to talk about any other relevant information that a claim might need in order to process it properly.
So let's take a look at what filing and submitting a claim actually looks like. So you're going to see here, this is the main screen of your iPad. So when somebody wants to file a claim, whether accident or theft, you'll grab the iPad from the locked location at your location, and you will take it out to wherever the claim is going to be filed. If it's an accident out in the port, or maybe you're on the phone with somebody who is calling in about theft. Either way, you're going to be using the iPad. So this is the main screen, and you'll see some of the generic apps that Apple kind of puts on the iPad, but there are one main section that you're going to focus on, and that's this app here. It's called FastField Forms. So when you're ready to start completing the claim, preferably with the customer there near you and at the scene of whatever has happened, you're going to open up this app. Now what happens is this app will automatically log in for you. It has been added with a username and password. However, there will be instances sometimes when it restarts or something happens where you need to log back in. So I'm going to show you the login screen. So the login screen looks like this. You would just click login, and each location is going to have its own specific username and password. So if you work in Hollywood, it has the one you see here. If it's in Tampa, it has another completely separate email usage, and Atlantic City, and so on and so forth. So from your manager or supervisor, you will find out what that username and password is. So once you've logged in properly, this is the main screen you are going to see. Now it has a lot of options, but you just really need to focus on three things, and we'll kind of go back and talk about some of the other ones later. Forms is where you're going to go first, but you're also going to pay attention to in progress and submitted, and we'll double back and talk about those as well. So once you've logged in, you're going to click Forms because you're obviously ready to start a claim. This person's saying that they damaged a car, something was stolen, so let's get them on their way. When you click on Forms, you're going to be posed with an option of two different forms. You have to determine whether or not this is a damage claim or a theft claim, and obviously it'll tell you what property you're at in that claim as well. So if this is a damage claim, which we're going to say it is for this instance, you would click Damage Claim, and it'll ask you whether or not you want to start this form, and you will click OK. What will happen is a brand new form will pop up, and you will see a lot of information that you're going to need to fill out. So essentially, as an overview, what you're going to be doing is just really digitally inputting all the information you would normally put in a claim. If you've done a claim before on paper, you'll know what this is, but if you've never done so, essentially what you're collecting is a lot of information about the customer, the damage in the vehicle, which we discussed earlier. So let's get started here and talk about what we're getting first on the first part. You're going to get information from the customer. So you'll see here the first piece of information that they're asking you for is your name. So make sure that you type in your name. You're the person putting this claim into our system, so put that down. Claim number is going to be the initials of the property you are at, followed by the ticket number. So you're going to need to reference that. Everything else you're going to get either from the customer directly themselves, or ideally you're going to get a license from them where you can just copy the information. If the vehicle is owned by a different person, you may want to find out that as well, but that is not a required field. So you're going to go ahead and fill out all of this information, and it will just put in generic stuff so it gets filled in. And what you're going to do here is you're going to ask a customer for their email. And in case we need to contact them and the phone is wrong or something happens, it's just a nice backup. You don't have to get it from the customer, but the fact is it's nice to get it and ask for it if they have it. Also ask for their cell number. Most people have them, so you're just going to go ahead and ask for it. And then if they have a home number that they would like to give you that's different from their phone number, that's fine too. Now you'll notice here in these two sections, the date of incident and the time of incident is automatically time-stamped. So you can see right now when I'm actually doing this, and what happens is if something were to occur at a previous time, say somebody calls in and says, oh, this damage happened yesterday on property, or something was taken out of my car and I just noticed, you can click this and you can adjust the date and time based on the customer's information. However, if you are doing this claim at the actual time of the incident, this will auto fill out and you will not have to put this in. The last little section you're going to have to kind of look at is, was the claim reported at time of incident? And this is important for this fact. If the claim happens and they report it on property at the time, you click yes. If the customer returns to property, even if it's only 10 minutes after, or an hour later, or 5 days later, or they call you on their way home, you must select no, the claim was called in after they left property. If there is additional information for that claim, you need to type it here. For example, customer called in 2 days later to report theft of wallet. And that does it for the customer information section. What you do after that is you hit the next button. That will take you to our next page. The next page deals with the vehicle information. So there's a couple ways you're going to need to do this. Number one, ideally you have the license of the customer. I would also ask for the registration. The registration usually has a lot of this info, but you're just either going to need to ask or identify what type of car it is. Again, very self-explanatory. The make of the vehicle. You're going to put down the type of vehicle that this person owns. You are going to put down the model of the vehicle. Now, sometimes for model type, there are specific types of vehicles. It would help if you know, or you could identify that. If you don't know the type, just the make and the model is okay. You're going to find out the year of the vehicle. It is important to find out this information and enter it properly. There is a huge difference between a 2018 car and, say, a 2008 car. So if you are typing in these numbers, make sure the values are correct, right? Make sure you check what year it is. If you're not sure, ask the customer, check the registration. You're going to type in the color, and then you should get the VIN number of this vehicle. Make sure you get it from the registration, where it is usually located right in front of the dash by the window. So take a look at that and look at that. The odometer reading, you're going to look in the car, you're going to find out how many miles this car has. And last but not least, you're going to get their license plate number, and you are going to find out the state that this car is registered under. You should ask as well, as the vehicle a rental. If it is, there's additional information that might come up, but ultimately just click yes or no if the vehicle is a rental. Getting all of this information is important. I will stress this many times over. If you do not put in all of this information, you will not be able to submit this. So let me go back and kind of highlight this now, and I'll emphasize it later. Say you cannot get the VIN number, or their odometer reading is broken, or something is up with this. You have to enter these values. You have to. So if you don't know the VIN number, you are just going to go ahead and enter any sort of value. Just regular zeros is fine. We're going to know that it's not really a VIN number and that you were unable to get that piece of information. But it is ultimately important that you 100% get all of these readings. Even if you can't have them accessible now, put in something in that field so that it at least will allow you to submit it. I'm sure you've submitted forms online before. There are required fields where if you do not fill them in, you cannot submit that form. This works the same way. All of these things are very much so required. So once you have done all of that, you are going to go ahead and click the next button down at the bottom, and that'll take you to our next screen. The next page contains all of the things you're going to be taking pictures of in reference to the damage that has happened to the car or anything else in general. So you're going to see a whole list of things that we require pictures of. So let me quickly go over them for you so that you can kind of get an idea of what's expected each time. So you have to take pictures of the license, the registration. You have to take pictures of the actual damage, and you can see under here the notes that say, please get 6 good pictures. The sides, the back, multiple pictures of the damage from different angles. You're also going to take pictures of some of the pertinent information from the claim and the check itself. So you're going to get the claim check ticket or the dashboard ticket, the valet receipt, the ticket front, the ticket back, and other photos that might be useful in processing this claim. Why are you taking pictures of this? So if you've done any sort of work in valet, you know that those claim tickets, they have information that valet drivers fill out for pre-existing damage. We need to know if there was any pre-existing damage marked by the driver prior to us taking handle of the car. And this helps kind of clear any wrongdoing if damage was pre-existing. So it's important that these pictures are taken. So let me exactly explain how this is going to work. If you've taken any photos with any sort of device before, you know once you take it, it saves it to your device. Well, this is going to save it to this form. So once you click the section that you're ready to take the picture of, you would just tap it. Now say, first we're going to get a license. So you actually have to physically have the license of the customer. You're going to have it in hand. You're going to place it on top of a clear surface where you can easily take a photo of it. You will physically pick the iPad up and you will snap the photograph of the license. You have to make sure that it's clearly legible. So let's just go about that really quickly. When you click that section, you are going to be asked whether or not you want to access the camera, the library, so on and so forth. You are going to use the camera. You are actually going to physically snap a photograph. So here you can see a live view of my desk and where this is all happening. So what you do is you would just hover over whatever it is you're taking a picture of, and you would take that photo. In this case, you are doing it for the license. So obviously it's a picture of the keyboard. So what I'm going to do now is just go back and show you that now we've taken a picture of what would be the license. Now you would do that for everything. You would do that for license, registration, the damage itself. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you some of the pictures that would be in here and show you how that would work. So instead of actually taking a photo, I've preloaded some photos, and what happens is you can actually see that I will add some photographs of things like a license, registration. Now you would physically select camera. I'm going to select library, do a registration, and then there would be pictures of damage. Now when it goes to do pictures of damage, you'll see a blank screen. Because we're taking multiple pictures of damage, you are going to go ahead and click Add New at the bottom. And what's going to happen, it's going to allow you to add and take multiple pictures of something. So once again, I'm just going to click some random photos. When you go to take a photo, you can do one, picture of damage here, picture of damage here, picture of damage here. And what it does is it will show you multiple pictures in one section. So in this particular section, the damage section, you would see multiple pictures of damage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just add pictures that I've already created so you can get a better idea of the types of things you would be seeing. So I'm going to go ahead and load some things, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how it should look. All right, so I've loaded up some photos and I just wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like once you've properly taken pictures of everything. You can see right in the field here I have a picture of a license, picture of a registration. If you click on pictures of damage, you can see all of the things that would have been taken for a damage claim. Lots of angles, lots of different perspectives of the damage, things like that. As we get lower, you can see the customer claim, the valet receipt, the ticket front, and the ticket back, like I was saying. So one of the things that needs to be very, very clear here is that when you take pictures of these, please make sure that they are very, very legible, that you can see all of the information on them. While this is kind of, grayed out, you can definitely see, what is being written there before that black box. You can read the date, the address if you need to of the customer in case some of the information does not match up. So that is an overview of the pictures. Now let me also make this very clear, and we're going to go over this at the end. All of these pictures are required for you to take except this section that says other photos that may be useful. If you are doing a damage claim, there has to be pictures. You cannot submit a claim without giving us pictures of what had happened. Now, there are exceptions to this rule. So, for example, say somebody calls in and says, I left here and there's a scratch on my bumper, I want to file a claim. Okay, you can do that, but there is no car now to take a picture of. There is nothing on property. So, just some general rule of thumb is you still need to submit this claim, but if the program requires you to take pictures, what do? So my suggestion is during this section, if you are doing a claim where the damage is off property, you cannot take pictures of it, take pictures of anything. You would be maybe sitting in the office and you have a post-it note. You write on that post-it note, damage off property or no pictures available, and literally take a picture of the post-it note. This fulfills the requirement of pictures that needed to be taken for the claim, and that way you can still submit it. We'll know, once we read these claims, we'll understand that you had to take a picture of something because the damage wasn't there. The customer called it in and it's not available. So this is not your fault. You just still need to take pictures of something in order to fill the requirement for the actual claim to be digitally submitted. We'll go over that again a little later. Once you have finished up taking all of your pictures, everything is there, you click the next button for our next section. This next section is the description of the actual damage that has occurred. So what we're going to do is we're going to look over these boxes and really try to understand what we're expecting here. So the first section is in detail describe the extent of the damage to the vehicle, the location on the car, the type of damage, then circling the damage where it occurred, and there's side views and front views, and ultimately are there any injuries and any other vehicles involved. So let's start at the very beginning. This is where you're going to detail the actual description of the damage. So what we're going to ask for here is what are you seeing? Pictures are great and we might be able to see with very good detail, but sometimes we need to know exactly what we're looking at. So for example, for some of the pictures, there's lots of scrapes and dents. So let's say for instance, driver side door was scraped and is about 3 feet long and 1 foot wide. There are also multiple dents around the area. So that is a pretty good description of the actual damage. You're telling me the location, driver's side door. You're telling me how long it is, whether it's a scratch, a dent, scrapes, something is shattered if we're talking about a window. So you're just going to click done, and there you are. You have your description. Next, you're going to go ahead and circle where this location takes place. So in my description, I just said the driver's side door. So when I click on the actual photo, you're actually going to be taken to a place where you can annotate or draw over this section. It defaults to a color, so with your finger, which is what I'm doing even though you can't see it, you would be circling the area in which the damage occurred. Okay? If you need to, for something that happened maybe to the top of the vehicle, if you need to circle a little bit somewhere else, you can as well. But ultimately, you're going to circle any areas. If you need to erase it, there are tools at the bottom that allow you to do so. But ultimately, you're just circling places that you need to circle. The very bottom, it gives you a different perspective. For instance, say something happened to the headlight. You would click this and just do the same thing. So essentially with these two pictures, you're circling any place on the vehicle where the damage took place. So ultimately, too, you want to be concerned about any injuries. Don't go asking for injuries, ma'am, sir, are you hurt? But if anybody offers up or somebody goes away in an ambulance because of this damage, please do so, say so. If there was nothing there, you can just type in no injuries, and that's 99% of the time. But we do need to know if there is any damage sometimes, injuries during that time. And at the very bottom, you're going to answer whether this claim involved additional vehicles. This is kind of important in the sense that sometimes two valet vehicles, they do collide. Now there are going to be two damage claims. Most of the time you're going to click no, okay? You are going to say, nope, this damage just happened in the parking garage. It scraped along the side. It's only one vehicle. However, sometimes a car will back into another valet car or another vehicle. That means you have two vehicles with damage with two separate claims. So I want you to pay attention here when I click this yes button. Another box pops up for you. And it says, if yes, please input claim number of additional claim associated with that incident. So if you're handling multiple claims, you're going to do one at a time. If two vehicles crash into each other, you're going to be doing one claim with one claim number and another claim with another claim number. So for example, this claim number is 123456. You're going to get the ticket of the additional vehicle, and you are going to write in the claim number of this new damage. Subsequently, you will be filing another damage claim for this other vehicle. This does not negate that. You will be doing two separate claims for two different vehicles, but you're at least going to reference each other in this section. So if there is another piece of damage, that's how you would kind of understand that. So once you've figured out all of the details of the damage and where it is on the vehicle, being very, very detailed, you would again just click next for the next section. Now let me just emphasize before we move on, all of the things we've done previously are going to be done while the customer is on property or on the phone if they're calling it in. But ultimately, if the damage is happening there, the customer needs to be there, the car needs to be there. If we review what we put in so far, the customer information, the vehicle information, pictures of damage, description of damage, the vehicle and the customer need to be there for these areas, okay? So now that we've gone on to the next section, we're now going to get into the next couple sections, which are all statements. These are supervisor and employee statements that describe what happened to the actual incident. Now, say, for instance, the customer is in very much so of a rush and they're ready to go. From this point forward, the customer isn't necessarily needed for the statements. These are things that the supervisor and employees type up from their own recollection or witness account of the actual damage. So if you have a customer that's in a rush, once you get past that part where you're done with the damage, the description, there is really nothing else needed from the customer. However, you do need to, as the manager or supervisor, continue to fill out these sections completely. You should not stop a claim until you're completely done these sections, and I know it's taken quite some time to get to this point, but when you figure out all these details and you're quick with it, filing a claim will not take that much longer. So let's talk about this section here. Whoever you are, the supervisor name, whoever's filling it out, when we started filling this out, we had said John Smith was our supervisor, so here he is. So we're going to start answering some questions here. Does this damage look new? So this is basically you as a supervisor using your professional opinion whether or not the damage was caused in our custody and care. So when you're observing the damage, does the damage look fresh? Does it look like it just happened? If the answer is yes, you would click yes. If it's no, you would click no. Use your professional judgment as far as whether or not you believe we caused this. So not only that, do you think that this damage appeared to happen within our care? The damage may look fresh, but they might have gotten into a fender bender before they got here and then just decided to claim it when they leave. So do you believe this happened in our custody and care? And then ultimately, do you think that somebody that in one of our staff members caused this damage? Okay, do you think one of our employees caused this damage? And you would answer that. Now, the next part is the details involving the incident. This is your supervisor statement. This is where you give your account of what happened during this incident. So I'm very briefly going to write something down. Valet driver backed into pole in garage while delivering vehicle. Now, very simple statement. That's a very cut and dry statement. Some statements are not cut and dry. Okay, some statements require long descriptive details as to what's going on. Sometimes it's not as easy as somebody backing into something. Sometimes something happens where there are situations that just need description. If you find out information later from another employee or at that time, detail it. I cannot stress enough that whatever information you know about this claim, whether it involves the actual accident or information surrounding it, needs to be put in your statement. This is the supervisor statement that you're filling out. And when you're finished with that, review it, make sure it's what you want to do, and you're going to sign off on this statement. When you click the signature box on an iPad, you have the ability with your finger to sign off on your statement, and your signature is there. Once you are clear with what you want to say, you would then again, like each time, you're going to move on to the next section. So now that we've given your statement, your supervisor's statement, we now have to get statements from other people that were potentially involved in this claim. Now, I will stress this. Up until this point, everything that you've filled out is required. You have to get this information. It makes a full and complete claim. But I do know the following. Sometimes the employees are not available at that time to produce a statement. So if you look at the top here, we're now looking for our witness statement of the parker. Okay, this section is for the person that parked the vehicle. Now I'm going to give you a very common scenario. Let's say, for instance, the person that parked the vehicle is no longer there. Why? Because the damage happened when the car was pulled out. And all of a sudden you have somebody claiming an accident, something happened to their car, and the person that delivered the car is there, but the person that parked it left 4 hours ago because their shift is over. That happens a very, very high amount of times. So I'm going to leave that scenario as is. I'm going to pretend like that's our scenario, and I'm just going to leave this section blank, okay? The witness statement, you can't get. Either you can't make anything up, so you're going to leave it blank. I will say again that it is not required. You do not need to fill these out in order to submit a claim. Sometimes employees aren't available. And I'll stress this again at the end, but the most important thing is submitting the actual claim. You can get statements from employees later. You still need to submit the claim prior to getting those statements if they are not available. So I'm just going to go ahead and move on for now, and I will show you how, though, however, to do a statement for other employees. So this next section is a statement for the person that pulled the car. So using our previous example, let's say a customer gets their car delivered, there is damage they claim happened on property. The person delivering the car is there, but the parker is not. So we've just skipped the parker section, okay? Now we're in the pull section. Well, the employee's there. He's ready to make his statement, okay? So we are going to go ahead and give the iPad to this employee. This is his responsibility to fill out. So the employee would fill out his name, whatever that may be, and they are going to detail the incident that had happened. Now, using my previous thing, say he admits to what had happened. I pulled the car back into a pole that I did not see. So it's very obvious here that, and you would click done. It's very obvious here that the employee did the damage, they're admitting to it, and then just like for a supervisor statement, you would click the signing button, and then you would sign, the employee would sign there. Please get them to write clearly, type clearly and legibly and make it make sense. Sometimes employee statements, they just say, I didn't do anything. Well, that's not necessarily a great representation of what had happened. Just have them detail exactly what they didn't do. If they delivered the car without incident and they absolutely did not scrape or move anything, just put that there. Even if the employee is not at fault for any reason or they don't believe they're at fault, they still need to fill this out in as much detail as possible. If the employee says, yeah, this was my fault, please have them detail exactly what happened. It is very, very important when producing claims that we have all the information possible. So just like a supervisor statement, employees are going to fill these out. When they have filled them out on the iPad, again, we just click next. So this is the last screen that we would have to fill out any information for, and it's a pretty basic one. It now just says additional information. Please detail any other relevant information that was not mentioned to help process this claim. Sometimes things pop up where you just don't have a space for it, and this would be that spot. This is not required. There's no additional information. It doesn't need to be filled out, but sometimes it's helpful to know if the customer is somebody of importance, if they made statements about something, if there was any sort of specific injury or other things that you might not have had a chance to input yet. So for example, customer John Smith is a high roller and should be contacted immediately. So sometimes, information is important. If somebody, of importance needs to, be contacted, let us know. Any information is helpful. So now that we've done this, we're done. We are completely finished with this claim, okay? So I want you to notice there at the right-hand corner, the next button is grayed out. You can't click it. There's nothing to do because there's no more screens left. You have a submit button up here. When you are done with everything, you are going to click submit, but I'm not going to do that yet. Why? Because I want to show you something that is really, really important in submitting a claim. I had told you that most of the pages are required except these parts about the Parker and Puller statements, just because they're usually not available, sometimes not available. However, just human error could cause us to forget certain things that are required. So let's go back and just say from the vehicle information standpoint, when we filled this out, we forgot to put down the year of the vehicle. It was one of those things where we said, you know what? I was in a rush. I forgot to put it in there. And now all of a sudden, I'm ready to submit my claim, but this was a required field. We're going to have issues with that because when we go to the end of our form and say, again, we forgot to submit the year and we go to click submit, we're going to get an error message. And this error message pops up. It says validation errors. And you notice that it points to this little check bar at the bottom with the little red 1. It says we've forgotten to input the year of vehicle. Okay, well, that's good. We can't submit this without it being reminded. So we would click that and it would automatically take us to that spot. And now we can go ahead and enter the year of the vehicle. I can't stress enough that if, hey, the customer drove away and that was a piece of information that you forgot to get, just type in there that I forgot to get the information, or just put zeros. We'll just have to fill in the pieces later. And if you took a picture of the registration and license, we would be able to help fill in those gaps as well, okay? So now that we've actually put in there the pertinent information, we can now click submit. We have no verification errors. There's no red dots there, so we can click it. And when you click submit, you're going to be asked, are you sure you want to submit? You cannot edit this anymore. And as long as you don't have any errors for pieces of information you're missing, you can click OK. And what it'll do is it'll process. Please do not close out the app until it is done processing. How do you know it's done processing? It'll take you back to the main form, and then you will have, as I mentioned earlier, a new file in this submitted folder. You will see that today is the 2nd of February. We have this claim that's been submitted by Bill Jones. Okay? That means you have completed a successful claim and that has been sent to all the proper people. However, we are still not done with exactly what needs to happen with all of these claims, and we're now going to move a little bit past that and show you some issues in the app that might happen. But now that I've showed you how to successfully complete a claim, we've done it the right way. Everything has been filled out, everything has been kind of submitted properly, and you can even see, like I said before, that you've submitted a claim properly, and that's where you would go to see it. There is one issue, however, that I need to stress to make sure that it is done properly, and that is incomplete forms. Those are forms that are not properly submitted. I will tell you that when you do this on the iPad, it does not get sent out. It's almost like an email. It's like drafting an email or starting to type a text, but not clicking send. If you don't click submit for these forms, they do not send out. And it only exists on this iPad. But that does not mean if you've started a claim, you cannot go back and finish if you accidentally close the app, or you back out of the screen, or you started something and you say, oh man, I got to do something real quick. I'll come back to this in a second. Those things happen. So let me tell you exactly how we're going to mitigate that to make sure that all claims get submitted properly. So let's go back to the idea of starting a new form, right? We're starting at square one and we are going to start a damage claim form, okay? And we're just going to not go through the whole thing again, but we're just going to say, for instance, we type in some customers' names, we start to discuss the damage, we start filling in all of these different things. And I want you to note the areas that I'm filling in here. It's going to be the supervisor name, the claim number, the customer name, all of those information. Now all of a sudden, you get pulled away, or you accidentally back out of the form, or you accidentally close the app. Something happens, right? If that is the case, I will be very, very clear that you do not lose the information that you are currently working on. I want you to notice that as you back out, there is now a section called In Progress. Okay? So we have now gone from an in progress section of 0 to now an in progress section of 1. What is that? That is a section that is incomplete claims. Now I have to also stress, if it is an incomplete claim, it means it has not been submitted. So you cannot leave claims in this folder. If you ever see an in progress claim here, you have to go in and check on it. What is it missing? What did somebody do that they did not finish? I will again say it's like filing a claim but then throwing it in the trash. Nobody else knows it exists until it's submitted. So once you click on in progress, you can click on the claim that's in progress and you can see we did not lose any information that I just typed out. So a claim might be 99% done. You just need to click submit, and you will know in this case, obviously, there are a lot of missing things that prevent me from submitting this. So now I can go back and I can fill in those details without missing out any information. So I will stress again that if you ever see any sort of claims in progress, they have not been properly submitted and they are just sitting on the iPad waiting to be completed. And that could cause problems because number one, a customer could be waiting for us to contact them about a claim, but we have not received it yet. It's still just on the iPad. So you need to make sure that that gets to us, and that can cause a lot of issues if that's the case. So that gives me a good wrap up of this app and how it works. Once you have completely submitted a claim, you are good to go from this end. There is a little bit more we have to get into, and I will detail that next.
So now that we've talked about properly processing a claim on the iPad, I want to go back a little bit. As you can see in front of you here, there is a card for the claims department. It has contact information as well as info for you to fill out when a customer reports a claim. So what happens is in the process of filling out all the information on the iPad, you have the customer there. If they are on property, you're taking pictures of damage or describing the theft or whatever's happening. This card is to be given out to every customer on property once you have finished collecting all of their information. I had said earlier during the iPad presentation that at certain point there is a spot where you can let the customer leave property once you've collected the vehicle information and customer information and taken pictures and all of that. You just have to make sure you also give them this claim card. Okay, so if you are going to finish up statements, don't let the customer leave without this. This is the one thing that they are going to walk away with where they have contact information regarding their claim. So as you can see on the lines below, you are going to fill out the claim number, which would be the property acronym, as well as the ticket number on there as well, and write down the claim date. And the person that is taking the card, just let them know they can contact that number for any additional information that they will be contacted within 7 to 10 business days. Please don't forget to hand these cards out to every customer. So now that the claim has been submitted on the iPad, what happens? So I'll be very clear about this. We're not quite done yet, okay? But essentially just walking you through the process. When you submit a claim, an email with a completed report is sent to the corporate office and the risk management team. Also, a folder is created in Google Drive for this specific claim, the claim that you just filled out on the iPad, and it is named after the claim number. The original report will also be put into that folder. So we're going to go now into the second part of the training, which is understanding how Google Drive works and how to take pictures from our valet system, either AVPM or CVPS, and putting them inside this folder so that we have access to these pictures. It'll hopefully be a very easy process. If you're not familiar with Google Drive, you will be. So essentially, when you're done with the iPad and you've submitted that. The work still isn't done. We have to collect the pictures from our system, our CVPS or AVPM system. These are different pictures than the damage pictures. These are from our security cameras, and we're going to put them in a folder so that all of the information for this claim is completed. I'm going to go through a step-by-step process now. So I just mentioned going through and finishing a claim by adding pictures from the security footage, and that's what we're going to go over now. So right here you just see a regular desktop. So what's going to need to happen is you're going to need to use the computer that has access to whatever valet service you use, AVPM or CVPS. Once you are on that computer that has access to the security footage, you're going to go ahead and find those security pictures, and you're going to put them in what's called Google Drive. So let me walk you through a really quick step-by-step of what exactly you're going to do. The first thing we need to do is go get the pictures. So what I've done really quickly is I have AVPM over here. I don't have access to CVPS, but the process would be similar. Just to explain it out loud, you go to the section that has the security footage, and then you would download those pictures to the computer you're using and adding them to Google Drive. So real quickly, I will go over through AVPM what would happen. So like anything, you would kind of go over and log in, and then you would go to the section where you can look up your pictures. So if you have the ticket number from the claim, you would type that in, and you would find the ticket. Now, when you go to look at some of these pictures, the reason that we have to have these added on property is that we don't have all the access to these pictures. As you can see, for AVPM users, where you would normally see that, there are no pictures. There is one, so I'm going to at least show you how to save it from here. Again, CVPS, it's similar. You access the pictures and you save them. So on a computer that has, the Valet program, you open it up and you click Save. Now, I would save them right to the desktop of the computer. Maybe if you are, somebody that knows your way around a computer, maybe you want to set up a folder on the desktop called Pictures or whatever, you can. So I'm just naming this file, and I'm just going to go ahead and save it to the desktop, and here we are. So you're going to do that for all of the damage pictures. I want to be clear. You're not just saving one. You're saving as many damage pictures that we have in the system, so you have them all. So realistically, what's happened now is you have now saved this picture to a desktop, and there it is. If I were to click on it, you could see that. Now, for our purposes, we are going to use other pictures that I've already kind of used. So I'm going to get rid of that one, and I'm going to use real damage pictures from our security cameras so that you can kind of see exactly what it is that you'd be doing. So here are our pictures. They're already on the computer. Now we need to add them to what's called Google Drive. So now we're going to access the web browser and go to Google Drive, which is how we're going to upload these security photos, because right now they're just sitting on the desktop. We have to add them so that everybody can see them. So from the same computer you're working from, whatever AVPM or CVPS is on, you are going to access Google Chrome ideally, but Internet Explorer if they have it. Google Chrome's icon looks like this with the colors. Internet Explorer is the little E. So you're going to open up a web browser. It has to be connected to the internet. So if you're working on a computer that is not connected to the internet and that's the only place that the security photos are on, you might have to use a USB drive to save those photos to that, like I had shown you, to saving them to the desktop. You might have to save them to a USB drive and then go to a computer that has internet access, because our next step you can do from any computer with any internet access. All you need is the actual photos to upload them to Google Drive. So here we are in a web browser. I have Google Chrome open, and you're going to open Google Drive. Now, to me, the easiest way to get to Google Drive is just to type in the following: drive.google.com. Okay? It'll take you right to the login screen. You could also type in just Google Drive into the search bar. Okay? And one of the top searches is Google Drive. You click it, and it takes you to the same spot. Okay? So however you get to Google Drive, that's exactly what you're going to do. If you find yourself at this landing page, you click the personal Google Drive account, but some go directly to this login screen. So much like the app for actually filling out the claim on the iPad, for Google Drive, it uses different sign-ins based on the location. So, depending on where you are, wherever your property is, you're going to have a different login based on that. So if you're unsure, ask your manager or call the office. We'll get you the information. But once you log into it, much like the app, it should kind of, keep you logged in so that you can access it easier each time. So I'm just going to log into the account quickly. And once you log in using Google Drive, using your property's username and password for claims, you are going to see these folders. Now, again, this is not your work email. This is not your work username and password. It's not. It is a separate one. It's a separate claims email that we are using, okay? So this is the Google Drive section of what it looks like. Now, you'll notice two folders here. Here's some README documents, and in these README documents, I have laid out very, very specific sections on how to do all of the things I'm teaching you in this video. So if you're somebody that likes to read and see a little bit more visuals, you can go back and reference those if you forget certain aspects of it. But ultimately, you are paying attention to this folder. Now, it's going to be labeled differently, again, depending on the property. So I'm in the Hollywood and Classic one. Tampa will have a different one that says Claims Tampa. Atlantic City says Claims Atlantic City. Claims Coconut Creek, and so on and so forth. So within Google Drive, you are going to access the claims section of the folders. And what you're going to see is you're going to see all of the claims that are currently active. When you go to access this, the only thing you're really worried about is the claim you've currently submitted on the iPad. Remember, I was telling you there's two parts here. They're submitting it on the iPad, and then there's adding the security photos. So we're in the process of adding the security photos to make sure that our claim is complete. So if you remember us completing the claim, what I did was I filled out our fake little, presentation claim, and I labeled the claim number HHR321345. These folders are automatically created when you submit a claim. You don't have to do this. The app does this for us. So when you go to access Google Drive, as long as you have submitted the claim properly, like at the end of the video, I showed you how it processes the things and it goes to the submitted section on the app. As long as you've done that, these folders will be automatically created for you. And let me be very clear about how Google Drive works. All of these folders are shared within the office. So if you add things to this, everybody can see them. So instead of sending emails of pictures to 5 different people, or getting a statement and having to fill out, 5 different forms and sending them all over the place, this is the one spot that you only have to go to add all the documents you need, okay? So let me show you what happens when a folder is created. So here is our sample claim that we made. Now I'm just going to click this folder and get inside and see what it looks like. So inside this folder, we are inside the folder of the claim that we created. There's just this one file here. And if you, just for your own, information, when you click on this, this is actually what's created when we submit this claim on the iPad. This is all the information we typed out on the iPad. This is all the stuff we get from a customer, VIN number, vehicle information. Here are all the pictures that you would actually take with the iPad. You would take their photo, you would take a picture of their registration, pictures of the damage from all these different types of angles, take pictures of the claim check, the receipts, the tickets, front and back. All of the information that we did on the iPad is all right here, including supervisor statements with signatures, witness statements with signatures. And we're going to go back to this form right now because we're obviously missing information, but this is something I want you to know does exist in here. Don't move it out, don't delete it. This is needed. This is stuff that I've mentioned is seen by the office. This is what we base our claim information on, is what you fill out and then is provided for us. But we're here to talk about how to add these pictures. So once you are in the folder of the actual claim, you can double check by looking up here. Is this the claim I'm working with? Is this the claim I want to add security pictures for? So when you're in here, you're going to right click in any of the white space. All right, right click. And there is a little option pops up that says upload files. Okay, so you click that. And that's going to take you to, the dialog box that asks you, where are these things at? What do you want to upload? So for us, we saved our pictures to the desktop. You can save them in a folder like I had mentioned before. If there's a folder on your desktop for where you're working on AVPM or CVPS, you can create one. But I put it in security pictures. And so here are the security pictures I've downloaded, and I'm going to add to Google Drive. I'm going to highlight them all. You can just click and drag over all of them and click open. And you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner here that they start to upload, and within seconds, they're all there, okay? So not only do we have our report, with our damage pictures of the actual scene of the accident or theft, we actually now have our security pictures. We have the things that are available to us and only us that you need to upload here. And just for instance, this is a good example. Here's damage that was already brought into property. Somebody's claiming we did this, but this was pre-existing damage. This is why these security photos are very important to us, so that we can clearly see what the car looked like when they came to property. So if somebody claims that we did something, we can prove that it maybe wasn't done by us. So this is what it will look like when you've successfully uploaded the pictures. Now I'm going to give you a very big overview as well you can add anything to these folders. So if you have a police report or documents for a rental car, and you scanned this information, the same way you save picture files, save the scanned files on a computer that has internet access, and you can upload that stuff in the same way. Upload a file, and wherever you save that information, double click on it, and it will sit in this folder. It automatically gets seen by us, and I think that's a very, very good thing to have. So let's discuss one last thing that will be very useful when completing a claim properly, and this happens very frequently. So definitely pay attention and kind of understand, try to figure out the nuances of how we're doing this. So we've got our security photos, and we've got our our statements and all of our information. However, this happens very frequently where if we go back to when we filled this out, I had told you that, hey, when we spilled out this fake claim, the guy that was parking the car, his shift was gone. He's left. So there's this empty spot here, but you know what? We still need that statement. We need to make sure that he did not cause any damage to this vehicle. We need to put in writing that, in case we do find somebody at fault, that somebody is willing to state I did or did not do this damage. And so this is really, really important. So the good news is you can edit this document. So you don't necessarily have to go find paperwork and scan it. You can do that. You can. But I'm going to show you a little quick and easy method so that you can, fill out parts of this that you are missing. And it doesn't just have to be the witness statement. Say that you submitted it and there was another portion that wasn't done. Say you added some additional information. There's something that came up later that you're like, oh, I need to add this to the report. This is a way to edit the entire document. But be very careful. Just because you can edit the entire document, it means that you can also delete things you don't want to by accident. So let's just kind of take a look at what we're doing here. So we're going to go back to our original report, which I just had up, okay? It's going to be the claim number in this. And for example, say we got a hold of the Parker. The Parker has now showed up to work the next day. I've already done my security photos. Everything is complete except this one guy. He has not written his statement yet. All right, so let's bring this up. And you can see we can't really edit it here. I'm typing on my keyboard and nothing is happening. We actually have to open this. And up at the top, there is a section here where you can open it. And we are using an app called DocHub. And you can see here that it's a PDF sign and edit form. And that's great because that's what we want to do. We want to edit a PDF. So we're going to open this. And it's going to open up a new window. But what it's going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us now to edit this PDF. Okay, so we're going to see exactly what we just saw on our screen, but in an editable form. So again, you just need to be very careful. Okay, you need to make sure you're not deleting anything that you don't want to delete. So let's scroll down to the bottom here and let's go to this Parker statement. Okay, so let's just pretend that the Parker is here. We're going to sit him in front of a computer and we're going to have him type out his statement. So he is going to put in his information. And he is going to put in a statement. I parked the vehicle without any incident and returned the keys properly. So there's a statement. He says he didn't do it. He just is clear and concise as can be. And now you cannot sign on these computers. But however, we will take a written out name as a signature. I'm sure you've done these before. Just typing your name in quantifies that. So make sure that you have them also type in their name in the signature as well. Okay. So now we've edited this and this is great. But like anything, anybody that's used a computer, you have to save this information first. It's very important that you save it. So let's talk about saving. If you look up here at the top, you're going to see, and hopefully you can see my mouse moving around top right, you're going to see a little down arrow, and that's a download or export button. This is where you want to be to save this. So let's click it now that we've made our edits to this. And again, I can't stress enough, if you want to add additional info because something happened, go for it. But when you're done editing this document, you click this down arrow where it says download and export. Where we're doing is we are saving this to Google Drive. Okay, it automatically defaults to the computer. You don't want to save it to the computer. You want to save it back to Google Drive. So we're going to click that and automatically says update existing with revision. That is what you always want it to have. It defaults to that, which is great. You want it to update the old version. So once you've clicked Google Drive, once you've checked that it says update existing revision, you are going to click export to Drive. It's going to do its work, and then it is going to tell you that we have saved it. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. We're going to close out of here now that we've known it's saved. And what we're going to do is we're going to refresh Google Drive. If you remember when we first opened this document, Bill Jones, this claim, it did not have a Parker statement on it. We just edited it. So we want to double check. Let's scroll down. There is Mike Miller's statement that we just typed in and saved. Okay? So hopefully that's a good overview of how you can edit these documents as well. I know it happens a lot. There is information you do not have at the time. The most important thing is to get this claim as complete as possible and filling in the gaps later. Let me also stress this last bit of information. If something is down, the internet is down, you cannot save this properly. You've tried 1,000 times and you can't get the Parker statement to save. You can upload anything you want into the folder of the claim. Just double check you're in the folder of the right claim you're talking about. So if you want somebody to type out their statement, that's fine. If you want somebody to write it and then scan it and upload that file, that's fine. The idea is troubleshoot here. We're trying to make this process a little bit easier and just have it all in one spot. So whatever you feel comfortable with doing, just go for it. Just make sure all the information gets there. Last little piece that I think we got to kind of talk about as well. When we communicate with claims, yes, this is a bunch of pictures and documents, but sometimes there are things that we want to say or evaluate that we don't have things for. So Google Drive is really good about adding things to it like documents and things like that. So we can do that right from within the folder. So say, for instance, we talked to Bill Jones, and Bill Jones came back to property, and we gave him a complimentary free park, okay? Let's just talk about how we would add that information. Maybe that's something we need to know. So when we talk to him, we tell him, oh, yes, well, we gave you this free valet pass. If you are in the folder and you click New, there are different things you can add here. So let's open up a new Google Doc. And a doc is just a new document, like Microsoft Word. You click that, and you're going to create one. Within this document, you can type in whatever you want. Mr. Jones received a valet pass for next week. Spoke to him on the phone. John Smith. And you can sit there and you can add information, okay? So you can title it notes, you can leave it untitled, but once you've written in here any relevant information that you need to have, I think it's really, really good that we communicate. If you have a note section in each of these, you will be able to communicate with each other. We'll be able to see what you've done to the document. You've been able to add additional information that may not be able to be there. So say later on, something else happens with this claim, you'll notice now that the notes section exists, okay? So feel free to add things in here, especially communication methods. So I'll, again, open up the notes. Here's our note from our manager, John Smith, who said Mr. Jones, received a valet pass. Say now another manager has something else to say. Mr. Smith said he has called the office and hasn't heard back. Bill Jack is his name. That would be something another manager may relay. And now we have info from John, we have info from Bill, and it all relates to this specific claim inside this folder. So again, it all automatically saves as long as you have an internet connection. And there is our communication log. Okay? So going back, just making sure that you put things in the right folders. Whenever you enter that claim, you should be able to see all the things that we need. And that should hopefully give you a nice rundown of how Google Drive works. Please, if you have any questions, let me know, let your manager know, and we will help you through that. So let's look at overall what a good complete claim looks like. So here we are in Google Drive. You can click on the claims folder of whatever property you are in. And let's just go back to the example we've been working with this whole time, this HHR 321345. So we're going to click in this, and this is what a completed claim would look like. We have all of our pictures from our security footage. We have everything that we would need. We also have some notes. We have things that we are writing down so we can communicate with each other, any information about this claim that would be useful. And then last but not least, and I want to go over this piece by piece, is our original claim file that was completed on the iPad. So let's go through here and just kind of see to make sure that this is all lined up. Now, this wasn't the information that I had originally submitted, but this is a good example of what a great completed claim on the iPad would look like. We have all of our relevant information clearly written, no spelling mistakes as far as addresses go. Make sure you're copying it down exactly. We have good information about the vehicle. We've collected the VIN number, the odometer reading, everything there. Our pictures, you can see them very, very clearly. You can read everything that is on them. Our damage pictures include multiple angles. You can get close-ups of them. You can see them from many, many different sides. You have a front view, a back view, side views. Our pictures of our claim tickets and receipts, again, are very clear. You can see them. You can make sure that you can read the information that's on them if you need to. Our tickets, front and back, you can clearly see if there was any marked damage on the back side of the ticket. And you can read all of the information on the front side of the ticket as well. Now, here's where I think it's really important. Let's look at the examples here of the description of damage. As valet driver Bill Davis was attempting to park the vehicle, he damaged it by striking a guardrail. Damage ranges down the passenger side on both doors. The damage consists of scrapes, dents, and scratches that run about 3 feet long. This is a very good example of what you would write down to describe damage. And you can even see when it asks you to type it in on the iPad, please tell us things like location on the car, the type of damage, like is it a scrape, a dent, things that are shattered if it's a window, etc. As we go down, you are going to see statements. So let's see John Smith's supervisor statement. He believes that the valet driver did it, that it occurred within our care, and the damage is new. He then writes his statement that says valet driver Bill Davis notified management immediately after causing the damage and admitted to scraping the side of the car while attempting to park it in the spot. You've already described the damage. The supervisor is then just telling me his account of what he knows about it. That's it. It's a good statement. Doesn't have to be a novel, but it absolutely details exactly what happened in regards to this accident. Now here's Bill Davis. Bill Davis, his statement is, I was driving too close to the guardrail when I was turning. The car struck the guardrail, causing damage. This happened on the first floor ramp heading to second floor. I parked the car right away on the first spot I found. That is a good statement. You sometimes have to overview how employees write their statements. Please check them. If an employee statement isn't clear, please ask them to say, hey, this isn't clear here. What do you mean by this? You have to double check their work. You can trust that they're going to be honest, obviously, but you have to make sure that what they're writing makes sense. That is a very, very big part of it. And because there was nobody that pulled the vehicle in this example, there is no pull statement. And then last but not least, third accident for driver has been suspended. Customer was angry and expects to be contacted within 5 days. This is in the additional information section. Again, anything that's there. That is a really, really good example of what a completed claim would look like. These are things that we need in order to process this properly. So when you're typing out these things on the iPad, be diligent. If you're going back and editing the PDFs like we had talked before, please make sure you're writing them clear and concisely. So before we wrap all this up, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the iPad care and usage. When using it, you have to be very, very careful. We've provided you with a case and a keyboard to be able to handle it. I know there's going to be a lot of holding it, putting it up, putting it down, carrying it out into the port and back, but just always be careful when holding it. So number one, just always make sure the iPad's locked away after each use. There should be somewhere secure where you can hold it until the next time it needs to be used. Make sure that both the iPad and the keyboard are kept charged. Periodically, you're just going to have to check to see how much battery life it has. Leave it plugged in for a little while before locking it away. Just don't leave it out while it is charging for the next supervisor or shift manager. Just make sure it gets charged during that shift and put it away when you're done. And then if there is any damage to the iPad, please report it immediately. If something doesn't work, report it immediately. We don't want it just sitting there collecting dust. If the internet went down and you can't reconnect for some reason, but it's the only thing that doesn't work, let us know. If the keyboard breaks, if damage occurs, please tell us immediately so we can get it fixed. Here are some quick troubleshooting tips, things that commonly happen or will happen, can happen during the course of filling out a claim. Number one, if you are going to fill out a claim and you go to submit it and it tells you that some required field has not been filled out, which happens, you have to just make sure that you can fill something in. You have to submit the claim. It is of utmost importance. So if you forgot the zip code when putting in the address but the customer left, just put in anything. If the customer is calling in saying they got damaged, but you don't have a car to take pictures, that happens frequently. Take pictures of anything, the desk, the floor, whatever, because you are required to take pictures when you submit a damage claim. But if there's no car there because the customer's calling it in, we understand and we'll figure it out. So just make sure that you fill in all of the required information. Also, if you're having trouble logging into the Fastfield app or Google Drive, just please contact the main office. If it's locked you out, you've forgotten the password, something has happened, just let us know. We want this stuff to work for you, so please just tell us if it's not and we'll fix it. And then if any technical issues ever arise, you go to use the iPad and somebody hasn't charged it enough, or an internet connection is dropped, please get the claim in no matter what. If there is old paperwork there for submitting claims, fill that out. Scan that in and send it to the main office. So please just don't use technical issues as an excuse. There are ways around it. We've done it the old way a very long time. So if anything happens that prohibits you from using the iPad or the Google Drive, make sure you just go around that by using the old way if possible. And last but not least, one of the things that I'll really stress again is that making sure there are no in-progress claims on the iPad. When you go to use it, if you see on the right-hand side that picture, that middle folder, it says in progress. When it looks like it does, that's perfect. There is nothing that anybody started, no claims that are just sitting there unsubmitted. When it has a little number next to it, as you can see next to the submitted section, those are the numbers that are in that folder. So that's a good thing for the submitted section. There are 2 submitted forms. That means they were properly sent in. If anything is in progress, it means it was started but never finished, meaning that we never got it. The emails were never sent. The Google Drive folder was never created. If you ever go to fill out a claim and you see something is in progress, please go in there and investigate what's happening. You can open it back up. You can check to see who started the claim, to see if any information has been filled out. If you see that it's mostly filled out, try to submit it. Submit that claim. It is really important that we get it, even if there are some things missing. Now, if you go to submit it and there are pieces that say, hey, you can't submit this without filling out this info, try to go back and fill it in. If you need to talk to the person that started the claim, say, for example, it's another shift manager you know, contact them and say, hey, was this claim not completed? Did it, something happen with it? Please just do your due diligence in figuring out what happened. Sometimes, however, claims are started by accident. The minute you start a claim, it will show up in the in progress folder, even if you haven't typed anything in. So if anybody misfiled a claim or accidentally started one and you see it is 1,000% clear that nobody submitted a claim or there isn't any claim attached to it, you can delete anything in progress that does not need to be submitted. You swipe left, you click delete. Okay? And just, last but not least, it is the manager and supervisor's responsibility to obtain all of this information and submit it properly. You have to make sure these get to us, and failure to do so could lead to disciplinary action. So just make sure you're doing all the things you need to properly submit it. Any questions, please ask. I thank you again for paying attention and listening to this presentation. It might take a little bit to kind of become familiar with it. I know, listening to something is a lot different than doing it. So give it a shot, try it out. And if you have any questions, please contact the main office or ask your manager. Thank you again.